Archaeologists have discovered a huge ancient city hidden underground in Mexico, which may give a better understanding of the Maya civilization.
Archaeologists have long known about the colossal stone heads scattered across southern Mexico, but for decades they were treated as impressive yet ultimately familiar artifacts of an early civilization. Massive, skillfully carved, and undeniably mysterious, they were assumed to be understood within the limits of a pre-metal, pre-wheel society. That assumption is now under serious pressure. The civilization responsible for these monuments, known today as the Olmec, emerged more than 3,000 years ago, along the Gulf Coast, in what is now Veracruz and Tabasco. By around 1500 BCE, they had already developed ceremonial centers, complex social structures, symbolic systems that may represent early writing, and a tradition of monumental art. Among everything they left behind, nothing defines them more clearly than the colossal heads. Each head was carved from a single block of basalt, a volcanic stone that is exceptionally hard and heavy. Some stand over 3 meters tall and weigh more than 50 tons. 17 have been found so far. They depict human faces with calm but commanding expressions, distinct individual features, and what appear to be fitted helmets. Most researchers agree they likely represent rulers or elites, yet no inscriptions identify them, and no definitive explanation of their purpose exists. The logistical challenge alone is difficult to explain. The basalt came from the Sierra de los Tuxtlas, more than 90 kilometers from the main Olmec ceremonial sites. The Olmec had no metal tools, no wheeled transport, and no draft animals. Even so, they quarried, transported, and carved these enormous stones with a level of precision that continues to puzzle modern archaeology. Theories involving river rafts or massive human labor forces exist, but physical evidence for these methods remains limited. For years, research focused on surface features, tool marks, erosion patterns, and stylistic comparisons. That approach changed when researchers began using advanced scanning technologies combined with artificial intelligence. The original goal was straightforward and conservative: create accurate digital records for preservation and study. What followed was unexpected. High-resolution structured light scanning, laser surface mapping, and AI-assisted modeling allowed researchers to examine the heads at sub-millimeter detail and, for the first time, to peer beneath the surface. Initially, the scans confirmed what was already known, but as the algorithms analyzed internal density and microscopic surface variations, they began flagging inconsistencies. In several heads, the AI detected markings that did not match known stone tool techniques from Mesoamerica. Some consisted of extremely fine parallel striations hidden beneath decorative elements, too consistent and too precise to be explained by erosion or casual abrasion. In other cases, internal density scans revealed voids and channels inside the basalt. Basalt can naturally contain bubbles or fractures, but these features were unusually linear, enclosed, and in some cases aligned with the external geometry of the sculpture. To rule out error, the team repeated the scans using different software models and methods. The anomalies remained. As a control, they scanned a known unfinished head from La Cubeta. That sculpture showed expected rough tool marks and no internal irregularities, confirming that the AI was not inventing patterns. As more heads were scanned, the pattern grew harder to dismiss. One revealed a shallow circular socket near its base, hidden underground for centuries and never documented before. Another showed near-perfect bilateral facial symmetry, closer to architectural tolerance than freehand carving. Yet another contained a faint spiral carved into a non-visible section of the stone, less than half a millimeter deep but running nearly a meter in length. Spirals appear in Mesoamerican symbolism, but never before in this location or context. Material analysis added another layer of complexity. Portable X-ray fluorescence scans detected unusual mineral concentrations embedded within the outer layer of at least one head. The minerals were not applied as pigment. They appeared to have been introduced during carving. Their placement did not correspond to decoration and showed fewer microfractures than surrounding stone, suggesting deliberate treatment. Individually, none of these findings overturns established history. Basalt can behave unpredictably, and ancient craftsmanship was often more sophisticated than assumed. But taken together across multiple sculptures from different sites, the anomalies suggest that the heads were not as simple as once believed. The scans also reignited questions about reuse. Several heads show evidence that they were recarved from earlier monuments, possibly thrones or altars. Tool marks overlap at odd angles, and some features appear partially erased rather than removed. This implies that the stones had long layered histories. Yet reuse alone does not explain hidden internal structures or precision features preserved beneath later carving. Context matters. At sites like La Venta, some heads were deliberately buried within ceremonial platforms. They were not discarded or abandoned. In some cases, facial features were intentionally defaced, possibly during political transitions or as part of ritual cycles. This pattern suggests that the heads were active objects, created, displayed, altered, and sealed away over generations. Orientation studies add another dimension. Several heads face cardinal directions, consistent with broader Mesoamerican planning, tied to cosmology and astronomy. Platforms, plazas, and mounds at Olmec sites follow geometric and solar alignments, and the heads fit into these layouts even when buried. That implies intentional placement within a larger spatial system. The emerging picture is not one of lost technology or impossible machines. Researchers have been careful to avoid such claims. What the AI scans reveal instead is complexity, planning, measurement, and internal design choices that were invisible to earlier methods. The heads appear less like isolated sculptures and more like components within a structured system, possibly ceremonial, mnemonic, or architectural. In many early societies, knowledge was not written down. It was embedded in landscapes, in alignments, in proportions, and in stone. The Olmec heads may have functioned in a similar way, storing meaning through form, position, and hidden structure rather than visible symbols. When the findings were published, the academic response was cautious but attentive. No one claimed definitive answers. Instead, the data prompted new funding, new scans, and renewed interest in re-examining not only the heads but the sites around them. Buried plazas, artificial plateaus, and forgotten foundations are now being studied with the same tools. Artificial intelligence did not solve the mystery of the Olmec heads. It exposed the limits of the existing model. It showed that beneath surfaces long thought familiar, there are layers of design that were never documented and barely imagined. The heads have not changed. Our ability to look has. What emerges is a simple conclusion. These monuments were never just portraits. They were never just art. They were built with intentions that extended beyond what could be seen, and those intentions were precise, deliberate, and repeated. The Olmec civilization disappeared more than 2,000 years ago, but the systems they built remain, encoded in stone. Now that the data is public and the tools are improving, the next phase has begun. The question is no longer whether the heads are mysterious. It is how much else lies hidden, not only beneath the ground, but beneath our assumptions.